My name is Simone Rivera, and I work as an operations coordinator at a mid-sized logistics company in Portland, Oregon. For the past 2 years, I have been managing our relationship with our biggest client, Pacific Northwest Distribution. And let me tell you, this client represents about 40% of our total revenue, so keeping them happy is absolutely critical to our survival. My job involves sending them detailed reports twice a week, and I take this responsibility very seriously because I know how much depends on maintaining their trust and satisfaction with our services. Every Tuesday and Friday, I send them what we call the Open Order Report, which shows every single order we are currently working on fulfilling for them. This gives them a complete picture of what is in our pipeline and when they can expect their shipments to be completed. Then every Monday, I send them a second report that shows all the orders we actually shipped during the previous week. This shipping report is incredibly important because it allows them to reconcile their records with ours and helps them track their inventory levels accurately. Together, these two reports give Pacific Northwest Distribution a comprehensive view of both their pending orders and completed shipments. Now, here is something important that most people do not understand about our system. The tool I used to generate that Monday shipping report was actually my idea. I noticed that our client was having trouble tracking their shipments, and I proposed creating this automated reporting system to solve the problem. I worked with our information technology department for weeks to design and implement this tool. It was not some existing system that management handed down to me. I conceived it, designed it, and fought to get it built because I saw a real need that was not being met. The tool itself is pretty sophisticated. It allows me to select specific date ranges for the reports, so I can customize exactly what information gets included. For example, when I send the shipping report on Monday, June 30th, I would select the date range from June 23rd through June 27th to capture all of the previous week's shipments. This flexibility is crucial because our system does not update shipping information in real time. There is always a delay between when something actually ships and when that information gets properly recorded in our database. This brings me to the core issue that led to my recent confrontation with my manager. During my one-on-one meeting with him on June 18th, I explained very clearly why I need to send the shipping report on Mondays instead of Fridays. The problem is that our billing and shipping systems do not update immediately. When orders ship on Friday afternoon, that information often does not get properly recorded in our system until sometime over the weekend or even Monday morning. If I try to generate the shipping report on Friday, it will be incomplete and inaccurate because Friday's shipments will not be included. I thought I had explained this clearly to my manager, but apparently he completely misunderstood what I was telling him. He somehow got the idea that if I send the report on Monday, it would include that Monday, plus the previous Tuesday through Friday. That makes absolutely no sense, because the report covers weekly shipping totals, not random 5-day periods that span 2 different weeks. I specifically told him that I would select the date range for the complete previous week, but somehow this concept did not register with him. On June 26th, he sent me an email that made my blood pressure spike. He said he did not like my solution and found it confusing. He announced that effective immediately, I would need to adjust my working hours to extend until billing is complete, which typically happens around 4:30 in the afternoon. My normal schedule has me leaving at 4 o'clock, so this meant staying an extra 30 minutes every Friday just to send a report that I knew would be incomplete and inaccurate. Now let me be clear about something. I absolutely do not mind staying late to do the job I am paid for. I have never been someone who watches the clock and rushes out the door the second my shift ends. But I knew with complete certainty that extending my hours would not solve the fundamental problem. The shipping data still would not be current even at 4:30 because the system updates happen after business hours when the billing department finishes processing everything. I also knew that the report would end up being confusing because it would show 5 days of shipping from the same week instead of a clean weekly summary. I decided I needed to go to his office and clear up this misunderstanding face-to-face. I figured if I could explain the technical details more thoroughly, he would understand why Monday was the better option. I walked down the hall to his corner office, knocked on his door, and stepped inside when he waved me in. I had barely opened my mouth to speak when he completely cut me off. "He does not care," he shouted, raising his voice in a way that made me take a step backward. "He wants the report sent on Friday, end of discussion." The volume and aggression in his voice caught me completely off guard. I immediately said okay and started to turn toward the door because I could see this was not going to be a rational conversation. But he was not finished. He continued going off about how I need to send the report on Friday, and there was no room for negotiation or discussion. I tried to say something else, hoping to at least acknowledge that I understood his directive, but he shut me down again before I could get a full sentence out. "You need to send the report on Friday," he repeated even louder. End of discussion. I said okay again, using his name to try to show respect and diffuse the tension, but I could feel my face burning with embarrassment and frustration. Here I was trying to prevent a problem that would make our company look unprofessional to our most important client, and I was being treated like some kind of insubordinate employee who just did not want to follow instructions. As I walked back to my desk, I felt that familiar surge of anger that comes when you know you are right, but nobody will listen to you. This was not about me being difficult or trying to avoid work. This was about maintaining the quality and accuracy of our client communications. But if my manager wanted the report sent on Friday, despite the obvious problems that would create, then that is exactly what he was going to get. The next day, Friday, I made sure to stay until 4:30, just as instructed. I sat at my desk refreshing the shipping report over and over, knowing full well that the data was not going to update. I watched the clock tick past 4:15, then 4:20, then 4:25. At exactly 4:30, I generated the report and immediately noticed what I had predicted would happen. Friday's shipments were completely missing from the data because they had not been processed yet. Under normal circumstances, I would have waited until Monday to send a complete, accurate report. But my manager had been very clear that he wanted this sent on Friday, end of discussion. So that is exactly what I did. I attached the incomplete report to an email addressed to our contact at Pacific Northwest Distribution, hit send, and packed up my things to leave for the weekend. I have to admit, there was a certain satisfaction in following his instructions to the letter, knowing that this was going to create exactly the kind of problem I had tried to prevent. This was not about being vindictive or trying to sabotage anything. This was about demonstrating why my original approach made sense from a practical business perspective. Sure enough, shortly after I had left for the day, I received an email from my manager. "The report is not complete," he wrote, "and I need to send a corrected version on Monday morning. I did not see this email until I got to work on Monday because I do not check work emails on weekends. When I read it, I felt a mixture of vindication and frustration. Vindication because I had been proven right about the system limitations, and frustration because we now looked disorganized and unreliable to our biggest client. I replied to his email explaining once again that I have only one tool available to generate this report, and there is an inherent delay in how the system updates. I reminded him that this was exactly why I had suggested sending the report on Mondays in the first place. I asked if there was another tool or method I was not aware of that could solve this problem. I also pointed out that the invoicing report and the shipping report were not matching up, which was creating additional confusion for our client. His response was infuriating. "That is the problem," he wrote. "You sent the report without looking at it." This completely missed the point, and frankly insulted my intelligence and professionalism. Of course, I had looked at the report before sending it. I could see perfectly well that Friday's shipments were missing. But I had done exactly what he instructed me to do, despite knowing it would be incomplete. I sent back a measured professional response letting him know that I had definitely looked at the report and that I had followed his explicit instructions. I explained that now we appeared even more unorganized and inconsistent to Pacific Northwest Distribution, which was exactly the outcome I had been trying to avoid. The irony was not lost on me that his insistence on doing things his way had created the very problem he was supposedly trying to solve. Apparently, after receiving my response, he decided to do what he should have done weeks ago and actually investigate the technical limitations of our system. He reached out to someone higher up in the company to get details about when the shipping report actually updates. The answer he received must have been enlightening, because that higher-up confirmed that the report does not update until between 4:30 and 5:15 in the afternoon, when everyone has already gone home for the day. This meant that even my extended hours until 4:30 were not sufficient to capture complete shipping data. The system literally could not provide accurate information during business hours on Friday, which was exactly what I had been trying to explain from the beginning. All of this could have been avoided if he had simply listened to my explanation and trusted that I understood the tools I work with every day. His most recent email to me was brief and somewhat sheepish. "For your information," he wrote, "we can talk about when we want to send the report." Oh, indeed, we can talk about it now. After creating confusion for our biggest client, undermining my professional credibility, and wasting company time and resources, he was finally ready to have the conversation I had been trying to have for weeks. The whole situation taught me an important lesson about workplace dynamics and the value of malicious compliance. Sometimes when people refuse to listen to reason, the only way to make your point is to give them exactly what they ask for, and let the natural consequences speak for themselves. I had tried to prevent a problem through proper channels by explaining the technical limitations and proposing a better solution. When that approach was rejected with hostility and disrespect, the only remaining option was to demonstrate why my concerns were valid through direct experience. Looking back, I realized that this was never really about the timing of a report. It was about respect, professional judgment, and the importance of listening to subject matter experts. I had designed and implemented the reporting system, so I understood its capabilities and limitations better than anyone else in the company. But instead of valuing that expertise, my manager chose to dismiss my concerns and impose a solution that he did not fully understand. The aftermath of this incident led to some positive changes in how we handle client communications. We now have clear protocols about when reports get sent and what to do when system limitations prevent timely updates. More importantly, there is now a better understanding of why it is crucial to listen to employees who have deep knowledge of the tools and processes they work with every day. Pacific Northwest Distribution fortunately was understanding about the confusion once we explained what had happened and assured them that we were implementing better procedures. They appreciated our transparency and the fact that we took immediate steps to prevent similar issues in the future. Our relationship with them remains strong, and they continue to be one of our most valued clients. As for my relationship with my manager, it took some time to rebuild trust and mutual respect. He eventually acknowledged that he should have listened more carefully to my initial explanation, and that his reaction during our meeting was unprofessional. We now have much better communication, and he regularly asks for my input on operational decisions that affect client relationships. The experience taught me that sometimes you have to let people make mistakes in order for them to understand why your approach was correct. It is not the most efficient way to solve problems, but it can be effective when dealing with people who are not willing to listen to expert advice. The key is to follow instructions, precisely while documenting everything, so that when problems arise, you can point to clear evidence of what went wrong and why. In the end, my malicious compliance achieved exactly what I had hoped it would. It demonstrated the flaws in my manager's approach without me having to argue or push back directly. The facts spoke for themselves and led to a better outcome for everyone involved, including our important client relationship. Sometimes the best revenge is simply giving people exactly what they ask for and letting them discover for themselves why it was not such a good idea.